What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. This is the channel where we sit down and cover different comic book stories from different comic book companies. Today, we are going to jump back over to DC Comics, and we are going to do a full story video. A full story video is when I sit down, take a bunch of videos that tell one overarching storyline, combine them together into one big video. And so with that being said, today we are going to have a full story about the character Hell. Now, Hell only appeared in the New 52 as a new bad guy for Superman, and DC was really hoping that this character would take off. Fans would really love this character a lot. But of course, fans did not like this character at all. Some fans did, but most fans did not. Now, with that being said, Hell did appear in two different storylines. The first one was Hell on Earth, and the second one was Krypton Returns. And I am going to place both storylines in this video right here to give you the ability to learn everything about Hell, a character from the New 52. And so with that being said, I do hope you enjoy today's comic book video. But here we go. To begin today's video, we actually pick up with Superman number 13. Now, we actually do see Superman right now working out in a science facility known as the Block. The Block is this research facility that is actually located right next to the core of the Earth. Now, with that being said, the reason why Superman is working out in this facility is because in Superman Annual number 1, he became friends with someone known as Dr. Shay, and she is the one in charge of the Block. Now, we actually skipped over that issue because honestly, there was no point for us to cover that one single issue, but in that issue, of course, he met Dr. Shay, and Dr. Shay brought him here as a way to learn more about his powers, to see if his powers are actually still evolving, even though he has been on Earth for a long period of time. But either way, Superman has been down here for 5 straight days, which means he has to leave here and go back to the surface world and be Clark Kent once again, because he's been gone for so long. Of course, there could be people out there actually looking for him and wondering where in the world has Clark Kent gone to. And so, of course, he does leave and head back to his apartment. Now, there is a page that does remind us that Jimmy Olsen is actually staying at the apartment of Clark Kent. And the reason why, because for Jimmy Olsen, his old apartment had a bug problem. And so, of course, with that having a bug problem, he needed somewhere to crash at until that problem was resolved at his old place. And so, of course, he has been staying at Clark Kent's apartment. But when Clark Kent goes home, he sees that Jimmy Olsen is actually in the shower with some random lady. But honestly, that right there is not important for right now, because when Clark Kent actually arrives at work, the Daily Planet, of course, he is confronted by his two bosses, Perry White and Lois Lane. Now, of course, with Superman, Clark Kent being gone for 5 whole days, he has not published not one single article for Perry White. And that is a huge problem. And you have Perry White say, listen, Clark, you were assigned to cover any kind of Superman story, and we have not gotten one single story from you in 5 single days. Now, for Clark Kent, he feels like the Daily Planet publishes way too many Superman stories, and they need to slow down on that. But of course, you do have Lois Lane remind Clark that he is the reporter and Perry White is the boss, which means that if Perry White says, give him a Superman story, Clark has to do it. Now, that is when Lois Lane does receive a text, but when she does, Clark Kent does use his X-ray vision as a way to read what she is texting or who she is texting. And that is the moment he finds out that Lois Lane's new boyfriend, or newest boyfriend, is going to move in with her. And of course, that makes Clark Kent very upset because he still has feelings for her, but on top of that, they're supposed to be close friends, and Lois Lane has not told Clark that she is thinking about moving in with this new guy. Now, this is the moment where we actually see Clark Kent get fired from the Daily Planet. And how does he get fired? Well, you see, while he is on his computer and supposed to be working on a Superman story, he is not. But that is when he is confronted by his big boss, Morgan Edge. Now, Morgan Edge is the one who actually owns the Daily Planet. And so he's able to see what every single person is doing on their computers. And when he sees that Clark Kent is not writing a Superman story like Perry White told him to do, of course, Morgan Edge is very angry. And he tells Clark, hey, I'm pretty sure that you're supposed to give me a Superman story and you're not doing that. What in the world do you think you're doing? Now, this is the moment where you actually have Clark Kent say, you know what? I'm tired of working here, because Morgan Edge is a crooked person. He has done some crooked things. And so this is Clark Kent trying to call out Morgan Edge, saying that he's just using the Daily Planet as a way to gain more power in Metropolis. But on top of that, he does call out Morgan Edge for being somebody who is crooked. But of course, you have Morgan Edge say, you know what? You're fired. If you don't want to write me a Superman story, then you can go ahead and leave. And so, of course, Clark does leave, and now he has no job. Now, Clark Kent did try to get other people involved to stand up against Morgan Edge. The problem is no one did except one person, and that one person is Cat Grant. But either way, you do have Cat Grant try to cheer up Clark Kent because she says that what he did was very inspiring. But of course, for Clark Kent, he does not care because right now he has no job, which honestly really sucks. But that is the moment he comes to find out that something is going on in his city. Something is attacking Metropolis. And that is the moment you have Clark Kent leave Cat behind, and he does change into his Superman outfit. But when he goes to see what in the world is going on in Metropolis, of course, there is a giant monster attacking the city. And the question is, where in the world did this monster come from? Now, you do have Superman realize that he has no idea what kind of monster this is. The only thing he knows is that this monster is causing damages all over the city, which means he needs to hurry up and get rid of this monster. And so you do have Superman fight against this monster, but this monster is actually very powerful to the point this monster sends Superman flying across the world, and he crash lands in Ireland. Now, you do have Superman continue to fight against the monster, and he does find a way to actually defeat it by really just setting it on fire, which of course does kill the monster. But the question is, where in the world did this monster come from? Because of course, it did not come from Earth. But this actually leads us right into the Hell on Earth event. And the reason why I say that's because that is the moment you have Supergirl appear. And Supergirl is very angry at Superman for what he just did, which is killing that monster, because that monster is actually from Krypton. And that is very, very huge, because now the question is, how in the world did this monster from Krypton arrive on Earth? But on top of that, we actually saw this monster back in our last Supergirl video, because Supergirl Fortress told her, hey, listen, your cousin is right now fighting against a monster that is from Krypton. You need to go stop him. And so that is why she is here. But while she is yelling at Superman, that is when we see somebody is standing above them. And that person is, of course, the main bad guy of this crossover event. Now, we do pick up with Superboy number 14 because, again, Superboy is part of this event. Now, I do want to mention one thing. We did skip over a lot of issues when it came to Superboy. And not in the Superboy series, but actually in the Legion Lost in the Ravager books. And we did not cover those books because, to me personally, those books right there did not matter enough to make a whole video about them. But either way, I can give you a quick rundown in what happened in those books. You see, Superboy was actually teleported by Detective Lore to where Caitlin Fairchild was at, a close friend of Superboy. But when he got there, of course, he was confronted by Harvest, the big bad guy we met in our earlier videos of Teen Titans and Superboy in the New 52. But that is the moment that Superboy found out that Harvest had installed a code word that could actually make Superboy go crazy. And so of course he did go crazy, but thanks to the Ravagers and the Legion Lost crew, they were able to calm him down and say, hey man, you're not a bad guy, you are a good guy. But of course, he did not trust Detective Lore because to him it seems like Detective Lore personally brought him there to help out Harvest, but in reality she had a different plan. But of course he does not care, and so he flies away to go back home to his apartment. Now when Superboy gets back to his apartment, well, that is when he finds out that Bunker is there. Now of course Bunker is part of the Teen Titans at this point in DC's New 52. But either way, Bunker is actually the only close friend that Superboy has in DC Comics at this point. But either way, you do have Superboy tell Bunker everything that had happened to him when it came to Harvest and of course the evil organization known as Nowhere that took place in those Ravagers and Legion Lost books that we did not cover. But of course, that is the moment you have Bunker say that it's probably best for Superboy to come with him and come see the rest of the Teen Titans, because right now it seems like Superboy needs all the support he can get right now because he has gone through so much in the last couple days. Now when they get outside the apartment, well, that is the moment you actually have Superboy realize that there is someone following them, and of course that is when he is confronted by the big bad guy of the book. Now we have no idea what this bad guy name is just yet, but either way, Bunker cannot see the bad guy, only Superboy. But that is the moment you have the bad guy tell Superboy that he finds him very intriguing. And the reason why, because he is a clone. And he's wondering how in the world was Earth able to make a clone with their technology, because to this bad guy, Earth is so far behind in technology that there is no way they should have been able to make a clone like Superboy. But either way, he does begin the process of beating down on Superboy. But again, Bunker cannot see the bad guy, and so he's kind of like, okay, so our Superboy just went crazy. I need to call in the rest of the Teen Titans because I need some help here, clearly. And so of course you do have Bunker use his powers as a way to put a big T up in the sky that does tell Wonder Girl and Kid Flash that, hey, Bunker needs some help. Something is going on in the city. Let's go. Now I do want to mention that right now the Teen Titans are a tad bit short-staffed, because Red Robin at this point in DC Comics is part of Death of a Family. And also Skitter, another member, has gone missing. And so right now it's just Solus, Kid Flash, and Wonder Girl going to help out Bunker with the whole Superboy problem. But getting back to Superboy, who is fighting against our mysterious character, well, that is the moment we come to find out that this character has a lot of different powers. And of course, Superboy is having a hard time fighting against this man because this man shows that he is more powerful than Superboy. And so right now, Superboy is getting his butt kicked all over the place. And it does seem like that most likely our mysterious character could actually kill Superboy if someone does not step in to help him fight against this mysterious character. But you do have the Teen Titans actually step in to help out Superboy. But when they do, of course, that is the moment they come to find out our mysterious character is actually studying Superboy, learning more about him. Because remember, our mysterious character, this big bad guy, was very intrigued on the idea that there is a clone of some random Kryptonian on Earth, because he believes that technology on Earth is so far behind. So how in the world were they able to make a clone? But either way, you do have him say that Superboy has two different kinds of DNA attached to him, and that is very interesting. Either way, you do have the Teen Titans actually step in to battle against our mysterious character, but again, he's just too powerful. He has a range of many powers to use against his opponents, and so he was able to take out the Teen Titans very easily. And when they try once more again to go after him, well, that is the moment he just teleports away with Superboy. And so now the Teen Titans must be worried, because they have no idea what in the world that man is going to do with Superboy. Now, getting back over to Superman and Supergirl, they have no idea about the new threat on Earth who just attacked Superboy. But they are back at the block where Dr. Shea is right now studying the new Kryptonian creature that had appeared from nowhere. Except with this monster being here, it does bring up a new problem. Supergirl thinks this could lead to hope that there could be other things from Krypton that could have survived. Of course, for Superman, he knows that this is false hope. She is only going to be disappointed when she finds out there is nothing else left out there. On top of that, the monster was already partially dead, which means it makes the monster being here even more interesting. Of course, you do have Superman leave to deal with more things back home, but Supergirl is still going to hold on to that hope that there are more things from Krypton that have survived somehow. But you then have Supergirl meet her friend, the Silver Banshee, who of course we met in an earlier storyline a while back. But either way, Supergirl tells her everything that had happened earlier with the dragon. This may seem like this is not important, but actually it will be for a later story. Well, maybe. Because once Supergirl leaves, well, that is the moment where we see something else is wrong with the Silver Banshee. Of course, we have no idea what is wrong with her, but maybe we will find out down the road. But Supergirl leaves to go back to her version of the Fortress of Solitude. Now, once Supergirl has arrived back at her fortress and begins the process of finally relaxing and even thinking about taking a nap, because out of nowhere she feels tired. Well, that is the moment she wakes up and she is near the sun, and she is confronted by our mysterious villain from earlier. Of course, he gives her his name, and that would be Hell. And apparently he tells Supergirl that he is also one of the last survivors of Krypton. Of course, this is the new 52 Supergirl, who is not really down to listen first to get answers. Instead, it is her trying to fight against this man and get some answers later, which is honestly the worst thing you can do when it comes to fighting someone you truly don't know about at all. But this was the new 52 Supergirl for you. Now, of course, her attack doesn't work because we learned that this man is on another power level when it comes to how strong he is. Either way, you do have him explain who he is. He tells her that he was sent away from Krypton by Superman's biological father, Jor-El, because Jor-El knew that sooner or later the planet was not going to be around much longer. Either way, you have him say that he was sent away as a way to safeguard the history and the culture of Krypton, so he has been traveling a long time. Now, he is not saying he is a son of Jor-El, but someone who is being trained or taught by Jor-El, so he sees Jor-El as a father figure. But since Hell has been traveling for a long period of time, his body has gone through a lot of changes. But that is the moment you have Hell tell us his master plan. Why is he here talking to Supergirl, fought against Superboy, and has been watching Superman as well? Well, he wants to bring back Krypton. He is going to go back in time to bring back their lost planet, hoping to save it before it is blown up like it was so many years ago. He then teleports him and Supergirl back down to Earth to show her how crazy this planet truly is, how insane this planet was, and how it would be better for them to go back in time and bring their world back, so that they don't have to deal with something like this at all. He takes her and him to a war zone, and also we learn that he is able to hide their appearance so that no one can see them. Now this is not enough to prove to Supergirl that what he is saying is true. The Earth is horrible, Krypton is better, but also that what he is doing is not a lie. He will find a way to bring back their dead planet, but he needs her help to reach that goal, meaning that she is going to have to help him to reach that goal, but to prove that she can trust him, he must do more things. He teleports him and her back to her fortress, where we learn that he is holding Superboy at. In the last chapter, he knocked out Superboy in their last battle, but of course he tells Supergirl that he plans on actually killing Superboy since he is a clone. And let's not forget that clones were one of the worst things back on Krypton. Clones were made to help Krypton, but they turned evil and began killing people on their home world. But Supergirl doesn't let Hell actually kill Superboy because honestly, she feels bad for him. He did not ask to be made at all, but to keep Superboy alive, Supergirl brings up the idea that if Hell is going to bring back Krypton, they are going to need Superman's help as well. Now you do have Hell actually teleport Supergirl where Superman is at, because he is hoping that Supergirl will be able to actually convince Superman to help them bring back Krypton. But here comes the big problem though. When Hell teleports Supergirl where Superman is at, well, Superman is not Superman right now. He is Clark Kent. He is right now in the middle of an argument with Lois Lane in his apartment. And so you do have Supergirl walk into his apartment because she hears his voice and she knows that that's her cousin's voice, and she goes towards it. And when she walks in, she's kind of like, hey, Clark or Superman, I'm here and I need to talk to you, which of course could blow his cover because Lois Lane has no idea that Clark Kent is Superman. But on top of that, with Supergirl walking in, it's kind of like, why in the world is Superman's long lost cousin in the same room with you, Clark, and she's looking for you? Now we actually pick up with Superman number 14, part 4 of this lovely crossover event. Now we actually have to jump back in time, and the reason why, because we want to know why in the world was Lois Lane in the apartment of Clark Kent. Well, the reason why, because remember, Clark did get fired from the Daily Planet when he did stand up against his boss Morgan Edge, but Lois Lane is here hoping that she can help him get his job back. But that is the moment you have Clark actually tell her that he is upset with her because she did not tell him that he was going to move in, or she was going to move in with her new boyfriend. And that right there makes Lois Lane very angry because yes, the two of them do like each other, but at the same time, they're just friends. They're supposed to be close friends, but again, she was going to tell Clark when she was ready, and she was not ready to tell him that just yet. And so right now, she is highly upset with him being upset with her because she did not tell him. But on top of that, you do have her say, listen, I know that you have someone in your life as well, and you're not telling me who that person is. And of course, in the new 52, Superman was dating Wonder Woman. But that is the moment you do have Supergirl walk in, and we're back in the present day. Now, luckily for Clark Kent, Lois Lane actually sees Supergirl as a random cosplayer, which is very lucky for the man. But of course, he was able to actually get Lois Lane out of his apartment, but then he tells Supergirl, we have to talk somewhere else, because right now you are about to ruin my secret identity with you being here right now, all Supergirl and everything. So let's go somewhere else to talk about what in the world you need to tell me. Now that is the moment you have Superman and Supergirl go somewhere else so that they can talk to one another about what in the world is so important that Supergirl must tell Superman. And that is the moment she tells him that she has met someone who is also from Krypton. And apparently he has a plan to bring back Krypton. Now Superman is highly confused because he's kind of like, what in the world are you talking about? Who is from Krypton? And that is the moment where he is actually introduced to Hell himself. Now you do have Hell basically tell Superman everything we just learned in the last chapter. How he was working with Jor-El, and Jor-El has sent Hell out into space as a way to safeguard the culture in the history of Krypton. But he says on his way to Earth, he had went through a lot of different difficulties. And by the time he arrived to Earth, Superman was already 27 years old, which means that he was stuck in space for 27 years. But either way, he says, yes, I am here to actually help you and her bring back Krypton. And Superman's like, no, girl, you cannot believe this man. This man is completely a psychopath. There is no way he is from Krypton. But that is the moment you have Hell teleport Superboy where they are. And this is the first moment Superman has actually met Superboy, which is very huge because he's like, wait a second, there's a third one on our planet, a clone of me or possibly me or someone else. Where in the world did this clone come from? But that is the moment you have Hell say that he is planning on killing Superboy. And so of course you do have Superman say, no, I think not, and begins to battle against Hell. And he tells Supergirl to watch over Superboy while he tries to deal with Hell. But of course, Hell is too powerful for Superman, and he begins the process of fighting back against Superman. Now that is the moment where you actually have Superman appear right in front of Supergirl. And right now he is very angry with her because he says, this is your fault. You brought him here. Ever since you arrived, the only thing you brought here is problems for me and everyone else. But that is the moment we see Superman actually beat down on Supergirl to the point he knocks her out. But that is when we come to find out that was not Superman, it was Hell pretending to be Superman. He was able to play mind games with Supergirl right before he knocked her out, so that when she wakes up, she'll think it was Superman who attacked her. You do have Superman come back in, and he's kind of like, what in the world are you doing? You're going to make her believe it was me. But of course, that is part of Hell's plan because he realized that Supergirl is going to be the only one who is actually going to help him bring back Krypton. Now, you do have Superboy actually jump in to help out Superman fight against Hell. But here comes the big problem though. You do have Hell begin the process of actually dissecting Superboy to learn more about him. Because remember earlier, when it came to Hell learning about Superboy, he was kind of like, it's weird that you are a clone that was made on Earth. Earth is so far behind in technology, it amazes him how in the world they were able to actually make a clone. But either way, with him dissecting Superboy, this is going to lead to more problems down the road. But either way, you do have Superman and Superboy unable to actually defeat Hell, to the point he says, I'm going to leave now with Supergirl, and we are going to begin the process of actually bringing back Krypton, and there is nothing you can do to stop us at all. Now, we do jump over to Superboy number 15, part 5 of this lovely crossover event, where we actually pick up with Superboy right now laying down in serious pain because thanks to Hell beating down on him, but also because he was dissecting Superboy. Well, of course, right now Superboy body is going through some kind of change to the point where Superboy could possibly die. But right now he is surrounded by the police force of Metropolis, who are thinking about taking him in to hopefully learn more about him. But that is the moment you have Superman appear because he realized that Superboy Superboy needs some help, but to also he needs to learn more about Superboy, because remember, Superman had no idea about Superboy at all until this very moment right here. And so right now it is Superman saying, I am going to save his life, but to also learn more about him at the same time. And so I'll take him to my fortress of solitude. Now, of course, you do have Superman take him to the fortress and begin to work immediately to save Superboy's life. But here comes the problem though. He has no idea how in the world to actually help Superboy from whatever is happening to him, because something is happening to him on a genetic level. But that is the moment you have Superman use his X-ray vision as a way to study Superboy. And that is the moment he comes to find out that actually Superboy has 3 different DNA strands, which is weird because usually you only have 2. And so right now the question is, where in the world did that third one come from? Did it come from hell? If it did, this could lead to more problems down the road. Now, getting back over to Supergirl in Hell, Hell took Supergirl back to her fortress, which is underwater. But of course, when she wakes up, she really did believe that was Superman who was beating down on her. She has no idea it was Hell who was pretending to be Superman as a way to trick her to be on his side. And so right now you have Supergirl saying that, okay, yeah, we cannot work with my cousin Superman. Forget about him. It's just you and me, and let's begin the process of bringing back Krypton to life once again. Now, getting back over to Superman, we do see that he called in Cyborg and Dr. Shea to help him figure out what in the world is wrong with Superboy. And that is the moment you have Cyborg say that right now the 3 DNA strands are going through a genetic meltdown, which means that sooner or later Superboy is going to die. If they want to save his life, they need to build some kind of cast, like a broken arm cast, as a way to help the DNA strands heal with one another, which means they need to build something to go around the DNA strands to let them heal to become one once again. And of course, right now, there is nothing like that on the planet Earth. But of course, that is when you have Superman realize that maybe his battle armor could actually work in a way to help the DNA strands recover from their genetic meltdown. Now, as soon as Superman puts on the battle armor on Superboy, 2 things happen, 2 very big things. The first thing is Superboy actually loses his telekinesis powers, which is very huge, because when it comes to Superboy, he had relied on that a lot of times in his last few battles, and now it is gone. He no longer has his telekinesis powers like he used to have. On top of that, well, that is the moment you have Superman say the battle armor should have changed when it realized the bloodline is different. But of course, the battle armor did not change. Matter of fact, it perfectly bonded with Superboy, and that should have not happened, which means that most likely Superboy could be a clone of Superman. Now here comes another problem for Superboy, because with the battle armor basically cutting down on his telekinesis, it also does enhance his super strength and makes him more durable, which is very huge for Superboy, because in our earlier storylines, his durability would come and go, and the same for his super strength. There were moments where he actually had a lot of super strength, but there are also moments where he did not have a lot of super strength. But now he does, thanks to the battle armor. But of course, he feels useless without his telekinesis, so he begins the process of actually taking off the battle armor. Now, of course, you do have Superman being able to convince Superboy that he must leave on the battle armor, because the battle armor is going to save his life. And so, of course, you do have Superboy put the battle armor back on as a way to save his life. But that is the moment you actually have Hell appear right in the room. And when he does, well, that is the moment you have Hell say that, hey, listen, I need to borrow your fortress. And that is the moment you actually have Hell being able to force Superman and Superboy out of the Fortress of Solitude. Now, when we jump over to Supergirl number 15, which is part 6 of this whole crossover event, we actually pick up with Supergirl in the past. And the reason why, because DC wanted to show us a flashback of Supergirl spending time with her best friend. Now, this may seem like it's not important at all, but actually it is for later parts of this crossover event. And the reason why I say that is because her best friend actually moved right before Supergirl was sent to Earth, and her friend moved to a city known as Kandor. And that city is going to play a very important role for this whole event, and you'll see here in a moment. But then we pick up with Supergirl in the present day. Now we do see that Supergirl is alone because Hell is right now fighting against Superman and Superboy. Well, he was, because the next page he does appear and he does tell Supergirl that he is one step closer to achieving his goal, meaning that he is one step closer of bringing back Krypton. But he must show her what he means when he says he is one step closer into actually achieving that goal. And so him and Supergirl actually teleport away so that he can show her what he truly means. Of course, he takes her right back over to the Fortress of Solitude that belongs to Superman. And so with him doing that, of course, Supergirl realizes where they're at the moment. And she is confused on why in the world they must come here to actually achieve their goal. And that is when you have Hell tell Supergirl, don't worry, I'm going to show you, just follow me. Now, outside of the Fortress of Solitude, we actually see Superman and Superboy right now both realizing that they have been locked out of the Fortress of Solitude. And so with that happening, you have Superman say that somehow Hell was able to access the system of the Fortress of Solitude to lock out Superman. But that is the moment you have Superman say, don't worry, he has a plan, but we need some extra help if we are going to be able to actually stop Hell here and now. Now, getting back over to Supergirl and Hell, this is the moment where you actually have Hell tell Supergirl what he meant earlier when they are one step closer into actually achieving their goal. Because you have Hell show Supergirl the bottle city of Kandor. Now, the bottle city of Kandor first appeared back in Action Comics in the New 52. And actually, it first appeared when Superman fought against Brainiac, because Brainiac was going across the universe collecting different species as a way to collect or build his collection. And so with that being said, he went to Krypton before it blew up, and he took the city of Kandor as a way to build up his collection. And so ever since then, the small town known as Kandor has been trapped inside this small bottle that was built by Brainiac. But you do have Hell tell Supergirl that there is something in the bottle city of Kandor that can actually help them achieve their goal to bring back Krypton. The only problem is Supergirl is the only person who can go inside the bottle city of Kandor. For some strange reason, Hell can't go inside there, and we have no idea why. Now, once Supergirl gets inside the bottle city of Kandor, she does begin to look around to hopefully learn how in the world did this happen to Kandor. Now, while she's looking around, she does realize that everyone in this city is being kept in some kind of stasis, and she has no idea why. But that is the moment she is confronted by Hell, but in an astral form, because he was unable to shrink down his body to go inside the bottle city of Kandor. But this is the moment where he actually tells Supergirl how in the world he is going to save Krypton. He's going to go back in time right before Krypton blew up. But for him to do that, he needs one piece of technology that is actually here in Kandor that could possibly help them achieve that goal. But that is the moment they do get attacked by some robots. Now, the reason why Supergirl must fight against these robots is because these robots were left behind by Brainiac as a way to make sure that the people who are kept here in stasis stay in stasis, which means if they break free, these robots would kill them or possibly put them back in stasis. But either way though, you do have Supergirl fight against these robots. But while fighting against these robots, well, that is the moment she comes to find out that her best friend, Tally, the one we saw earlier at the very beginning of this chapter, is actually kept here in stasis as well. Because remember, this best friend moved away right before Supergirl was sent to Earth, and she did move to Kandor. And of course, Kandor is now kept in this bottle city. And so right now she realized her best friend's being kept here in this stasis, and she feels bad for her friend, which of course makes her even more want to work with Hell as a way to bring back Krypton. And so once she's able to actually defeat the robots, she asks Hell what in the world do they need from here so that they can bring back Kandor and bring back the rest of Krypton. Now you do have Hell take Supergirl into a different room where he shows her a quantum crystal, and this crystal is going to give him the ability to actually go back in time to save Krypton before it was destroyed. But here comes the big problem though. If she pulls out this quantum crystal, that could possibly mean that everyone who is kept here in stasis could most likely die. That even means her old best friend as well. But of course, you do have Hell tell Supergirl that she must do this because they need to go back in time to save their planet. And if they do that, that means that even though her best friend dies right now, the timeline will be reset where she's alive again, but back on their home planet. And so of course, you do have Supergirl take the quantum crystal. But here comes another thing as a way to wrap up part 6 of this crazy storyline, because you didn't have Supergirl and Hell begin to kiss with one another. And the reason why, because these two have apparently built some kind of bond, which means that now Supergirl is most definitely going to try to help out Hell to achieve that goal, which means that sooner or later Supergirl could most likely fight against Superman and Superboy as well. Now we actually pick up with Superman number 15, which is part 7 of this crossover event, where we actually pick up with Lex Luthor. Now at this point in DC Comics in the New 52, Lex Luthor was actually being kept in prison, and so right now he's actually in prison at the moment. Now we actually pick up outside the prison, where we pick up with Superman and Superboy as they are trying to walk inside the prison because Superman needs to talk to Lex Luthor. Now this prison is actually very different than your usual prison, and the reason why, because it was specially made as a way to make sure that Lex Luthor does not break out once again. And so of course this prison was made to hold him. And you do have a lot of military forces around this base as a way to make sure that Lex Luthor does not get out once again. But of course you do have the military try to attack Superman and Superboy, but of course their attacks did nothing. And you didn't have Superman being able to convince the guards to give him the ability to actually go talk to Lex Luthor, which they do say yes, and he goes inside. Now I do want to point out that this prison was actually made by Lex Luthor himself. And the reason why, because when it comes to Lex Luthor, he has the smartest mind in the world, which means that no matter what kind of prison was put around him, he would find a way out of that prison. And so of course, he had to make a prison for himself to make sure that he could not escape. And so with that being said, you do have Superman and Superboy having to go through different obstacles as a way to just go and talk to Lex Luthor. But of course, they were actually able to finally get to Lex Luthor so that they can have a conversation about you know who, which of course is Hell. Now, when Superman arrives to talk to Lex Luthor, you do have him ask Lex about Hell. But this is one of the many big moments in this conversation, because you have Lex tell Superman that he knows about Hell, because Lex has been watching Hell watching Superman, and so he knew about Hell even before Superman and Superboy had arrived here. But here comes another big thing. When Superman asked Lex, is it possible for Hell to go back in time to save Krypton, you have Lex say yes, it is possible, but here comes the problem. He needs to do a reverse Big Bang, which means to sacrifice an entire solar system as a way to go back in time just to save Krypton, which means Earth and its solar system is about to be destroyed so that Hell can go back in time to save Krypton. Now here comes another big moment, because you actually have Lex Luthor tell us and Superboy that Superman already knew that. He knew what Hell needed to do to go back in time. The reason why he came here to this prison just to talk to Lex is because Superman knows that he may have to kill Hell just to save the day. But the problem is Superman does not want to kill. And so he came here to Lex to kind of get an idea, or to be talked out of the idea of actually killing Hell. But you do have Superman and Superboy actually leave, because now they know that Hell is going to possibly destroy an entire solar system. Now this is where we are actually going to end today's comic book video, because while you have Superman and Superboy leave the prison, you do have Superman say they need help if they're going to stop Hell. Now you do have Superboy bring up the Teen Titans, and of course this is the moment where you have Superman say, wait a second, what in the world are Teen Titans? Because apparently Superman had no idea about that super team being out there. But either way though, you do have him say, no, we need some better help than Teen Titans. We need the Justice League. And that is the moment you have some of the Justice League actually appear to help out Superman fight against Hell. And this To begin today's video, we pick up with the Justice League, Superman, Superboy, trying to break into the Fortress of Solitude. Because let's not forget what had happened in the last video. A new character known as Hell has arrived to Earth and claims that he is a Kryptonian who is trying to go back in time to bring Krypton back to life and stop it from being destroyed. Now, for him to be able to go back in time, he has to sacrifice an entire galaxy to go back in time. Of course, the galaxy he is trying to sacrifice is the one Earth is in, which means the Earth could possibly be destroyed if Hell is able to achieve his ultimate goal. Now, Hell has gone through a lot of steps already, which is being able to lock Superman out of his Fortress of Solitude. And that is why we pick up with the Justice League trying to break into it. Now, the reason why Hell broke into the fortress was because of the bottle city of Kandor. That is a whole bottle of beans I don't want to open. But Kandor was a city captured by Brainiac and put into a bottle for collection. Now, Kandor had a type of crystal that is going to let Hell achieve the time travel he's trying to achieve. Either way, we see Superboy trying to use his telekinesis to hopefully open the shield around the fortress. Here's a big problem though, with him using his telekinesis. When Hell had basically dissected Superboy's DNA, well, began the process where Superboy's DNA began to fall apart, and he could have died. Now, Superman gave over his battle armor to save Superboy's life, but of course, it began to change how Superboy powers work, and that means Superboy has to learn how to use his new ultra powers to hopefully break the wall down around the fortress. It is a painful process for him, but he knows that he needs to do this if Superman and the Justice League are going to be able to actually stop Hell. Now inside the fortress, we see Supergirl is helping Hell actually achieve Hell's goal because she really wants to go back to Krypton. Unlike Superman, Supergirl was raised there and had known so many people over the years. It was all wiped away in a blink of an eye. Also, Supergirl has fallen in love with Hell, so she is doing this for two reasons now. Now Hell does this messed up thing because he wants to make sure Supergirl truly knows why they are doing this. He shows her an image of an area of Krypton being destroyed, and for Supergirl it was hard to watch, but he did that so that she can understand why they are doing this, to make sure she has an understanding on why they need to make sure that they are able to complete this goal. Back on the outside of the fortress, we still see Superboy being able to crack open the force field. This is a huge move because with him doing that, everyone can finally move in and stop Hell and Supergirl. Well, they can actually stop him. Either way, you do have the Flash begin the process of vibrating his way into the fortress because Superman gave him a certain task, which is to get Supergirl and get the heck out of there. Now, on another level, you have Superman and Cyborg on another mission, which is to shut down all the computer systems in the fortress to make it easy for them to stop Hell. Superboy, Batman, and Wonder Woman have a different mission, but of course, they are being attacked by some more robots. So Wonder Woman is going to stay behind while Batman and Superboy keep going on to reach their destination, which is the trophy room. Now the reason why is because Superman told Batman what he keeps in there. Of course, it was the kryptonite, and was hoping to stop Hell with that item because we all know that kryptonite is one of the weaknesses of Kryptonians. Now Superman was hoping that Batman has a plan B, but Batman said they are now in plan double letters, meaning that, man, they are dealing with a lot of things at the moment. Back over to Superman and Cyborg, we see that they are right now dealing with a device that Superman had kept in there. A device that is like an alien prison inside of it. But of course, it was turned on. And this is a problem because it is very hard to deactivate it. There are beams shooting around the room, meaning that if one of the beams hits Superman and Cyborg, they will be teleported into the alien prison. So you have them trying to dodge the beams, but then Superboy and Batman entered the room and one of the beams almost hit Superboy. So Superman saves his life, except doing that means Superman is now teleported inside the prison. The rest of the heroes have no idea how to get Superman out. So you have Superboy basically decide to jump into the portal to hopefully help Superman get out, which is honestly pretty wild to do. Now there is one more thing to cover in this chapter. In the Himalayas, we see a science team right now looking for something. Except that is the moment we see some kind of creature popping out and saying that the Oracle calls and he must answer the call. And this is very huge for the ending of this story actually. But getting into the next chapter, we actually jump back in time to the point when Hell first arrived on Earth. Now when he arrived on Earth, there was another creature watching over him, and that same creature we just saw at the ending of the last chapter. And you have this creature say that he must call his master, and when he calls his master, he hopes that the master forgives everyone on Earth. But of course, we have no idea who that master is. But jumping back over to the present day, we actually pick up with the Flash. And let's not forget, the Flash was told by Superman to go into the fortress, grab Supergirl, and get the heck out of there. And so right now we see the Flash trying to find Supergirl. Now when he does, here comes the problem though. Supergirl does not want to leave with the Flash because Supergirl is madly in love with Hell, but also wants to help Hell achieve his goal, which is to go back in time to save Krypton. And so Supergirl begins to fight against the Flash. Now, of course, Supergirl is just as powerful as Superman, but maybe even more powerful than Superman. And so this is a challenge for the Flash right now, because the Flash is kind of like, I must fight someone who is literally on par with Superman. How in the world am I supposed to win this battle? But of course, after a few pages, you do have the Flash being able to grab Supergirl and begin the process of leaving the fortress. but when he vibrates through a wall, well, of course, him and Supergirl land in some kind of Kryptonian zoo. Now, these creatures are not like your usual creatures from Krypton. These creatures are actually from different planets that Superman had brought here as a way to protect them from people who may want to grab them and sell them on the black market. And so these creatures are once again from different planets across the universe. But either way, you do have the Flash and Supergirl must work together to actually stop these creatures from eating them or possibly just killing them. And so right now you have Supergirl and the Flash work together, and of course they do find a way out of the zoo. But that is the moment we see a character that fans love so much, and honestly I do too. And that character is no other than Krypto the Super Dog. And honestly, I really love Krypto. Krypto is one of my favorite DC characters. Honestly, probably like top 5. Either way though, Krypto is there, and of course Krypto does scare the Flash a tad bit, because now you're talking about a super dog. You had Superman, you had Supergirl, and now you have a super dog. Like honestly, this is not fair for the Flash at the moment. And so you do have the Flash run away. Now Supergirl is happy to see Krypto, and of course she gives him some love. But that's when she remembers she must go after the Flash to stop him, because if she doesn't, the Flash could possibly ruin Hell's plan to go back in time to save Krypton. And so you have Supergirl go chase after the Flash, but that is when she is hit with some kind of beam. And that beam came from the Flash, because the Flash was able to find a device that Superman told him about. This device uses pure kinetic energy, and the Flash is pure kinetic energy, which means that the device will never run out of battery, which means the Flash can use this over and over again on Supergirl, because Superman told the Flash that this device works very well against Kryptonians. And so right now you have the Flash using this as a way to hopefully defeat Supergirl. But here comes the big thing though. Out of nowhere, the device begins to break apart. And we're kind of like, what happened? Well, of course, Hell walks into the room, uses many of his powers, and he basically breaks down the device and then teleports the Flash away somewhere else. We have no idea where in the world the Flash has been teleported to, but now he is gone. Now we do get a page where you have Hell show Supergirl his star chamber. Now this star chamber is going to give him the ability to time travel back in time. Now here comes the problem though. Supergirl is very concerned about Hell time traveling, not because the Earth could possibly be destroyed, because she has no idea about that. She's more worried about Hell time traveling, but not time traveling far enough, where hopefully he could save Krypton. And then on top of that, what if he travels too far back in time? And you have Hell tell Supergirl, listen, if I travel too far back in time, that is great for us actually, because then I can help Krypton save itself from being destroyed. And then you have the two characters kiss one another. Now to close on this chapter, we actually pick up in space, where we see some random aliens right now traveling in space. But of course, one of the people on the ship is freaking out and telling their captain that something is outside right now, their spaceship, and is huge. And that is when we see some kind of sentient being. And this sentient being is actually traveling to Earth. So to make this event even crazier, we now have a cosmic being heading towards Earth for some unknown reason, possibly because of Hell. Now getting back over to Superman and Superboy, let's not forget these two characters were teleported into some kind of alien prison. Now this alien prison is actually being kept inside some kind of alien device. Now you do have Superman tell Superboy that in this pocket dimension, time, matter, and space moves differently. Now you do have Superboy and Superman trying to figure out how in the world they are going to leave this pocket dimension and get back to their dimension so that they can stop Hell from destroying an entire solar system. But right when the two characters are about to be teleported to somewhere else, well, that is the moment we see two people are watching Superboy and Superman, and we have no idea who in the world these two creatures are. But of course, they are planning to use Superman and Superboy as a way to get out of this alien prison. But getting back over to Batman, Wonder Woman, and Cyborg, we see them right now trying to figure out how in the world the device works to hopefully let Superboy and Superman out. Now you do have Cyborg thinking that he could possibly figure out how in the world it works, but right when he gets close to the device, well, he gets sent flying back, which means that he is unable to actually touch the device to hopefully help Superboy and Superman out, and that is a big problem. At the same time, Hell and Supergirl are getting closer and closer to actually completing the Star Chamber, which of course will give Hell the ability to teleport back in time to hopefully save Krypton like he is saying he is going to do. But then we jump over to Superman and Superboy, where we see them right now in another dimension. Now with them being in this other dimension, you do have Superman mention that right now he's losing his powers because he's not near a yellow sun. As we all know, when it comes to Kryptonians, the only way they gain their powers is because of a yellow sun. And so with Superman being away from the yellow sun, his powers are slowly fading away. Now you do have Superboy mention how his powers work and how he was created. Of course, he was made by a character known as Harvest. And you have Superman want to know more about the character Harvest. But unfortunately, before Superboy is able to tell Superman anything at all, well, that is the moment they do get attacked by a bunch of weird ground hands, or rock hands, sorry. Now these rock hands are actually alive, but either way you do have Superman and Superboy work together to actually save themselves from these weird creatures. Now, while Superman and Superboy are fighting against these creatures, of course, once again, we do see the same two people watching Superman and Superboy, hoping that these two characters will be able to get them out of their prison, because apparently these two mysterious characters have been here for a long time. And so they're hoping that Superman and Superboy can get them out of there, hopefully very soon. And with that being said, you have our two mysterious characters actually teleport Superman and Superman and Superboy to another dimension. But when Superman and Superboy arrive into this new dimension, well, of course, they are confronted by a new kind of creatures. And so you have our two heroes work together once again to defend themselves against these new kinds of creatures. But that is the moment you actually have Superboy realize something, and he touched the ground. And when he touches the ground, well, that is the moment he tells us that the alien device is actually alive and is able to communicate with Superboy. And so you have him use his telekinesis as a way to communicate with the alien device. And with him having that ability, well, he was able to use him and device powers as a way to send the creatures flying high in the sky, which of course lets Superman finish them off. And when he did that, you have Superman amazed in what Superboy did. But you then have Superboy tell Superman that the alien device actually talked to him. It is communicating with him. And that is very huge. But of course, that is when a random trap door opens up. And so you have Superman and Superboy think that they're being summoned, and they do get grabbed into the trap door. Now, when Superman and Superboy arrive into the fourth dimension, well, that is when they are confronted by our two new mysterious characters, Larissa and Blastor. And honestly, these two characters do not matter at all. So honestly, let's go ahead and rush through this part right here. But either way, these two characters were locked away in this alien prison for some strange reason. Of course, we know they're bad people. But either way, they think that Superboy will actually communicate with the alien device and have the alien device open up a portal to let them out. Now, of course, Superman realized, oh no, you two guys are bad guys, so you're going to stay here. And so you have the two sides fight against each other. And the battle goes on for a good few amount of pages. But either way, at the very end of this fight, you do have our two new mysterious characters actually ask Superboy to open up a portal to let them out, to tell the alien device to open up a portal. Now, Superboy honestly agrees. He says, fine. If you want to leave, I will let you leave. And that is the moment where he actually does tell the alien device to open up a portal to send Blastoise and Larissa somewhere else. And of course, they go to a galaxy that has no life at all. They're at the very end of the universe. And then you have Superboy tell the alien device to let him and Superman out, which the alien device does. And so now our two heroes are back on Earth and they can help the Justice League fight against Hell and Supergirl before Hell is able to destroy an entire solar system. Now, when we get into the next chapter, we do learn a tad bit more about Hell. Because remember, Hell told Superman and Supergirl that he was also from Krypton. And apparently he was being mentored by Jor-El, the father of Clark Kent, of Superman back on Krypton. But apparently Jor-El has sent Hell out into space as a way to preserve the culture and the history of Krypton. So we actually jump back in time to that moment where Jor-El has sent Hell into space as a way to preserve the history and the culture of Krypton. Now, I do want to point out one more thing. Right before Hell was sent out into space, apparently it was a big deal on Krypton with someone going out into space. It was such a big deal, you had people from all over the world coming to this one location just to watch the launch of Hell go into space. And so with that being said, apparently this was a big deal for Krypton. And so with that being said, Supergirl should most likely remember this moment. Because if it was a big deal, then she will remember watching it or at least knowing about it. Now, getting back into the present day, we actually pick up with Supergirl and Hell. And right now, you have Supergirl and Hell working on the Star Chamber that will give them the ability to travel back in time. But on the outside of the chamber, you do have Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman, Superboy, and even Cyborg trying to break into the Star Chamber. Because they know if Hell is able to complete the Star Chamber and uses it, well, the entire solar system will be wiped out completely. And so you have Supergirl wondering why in the world the heroes are so intent on stopping Hell, because Hell has not told Supergirl what would happen to the Earth in this entire solar system. She has no idea. And so right now she's just down to help out Hell because the only thing she knows is that they can go back in time to hopefully save Krypton from being destroyed. But getting back over to the Justice League and Superman and Superboy, well, of course, we see them trying to break into the Star Chamber to hopefully stop Hell before he does a lot of damage to the world and the entire solar system. Now, you do have them fighting against some creatures that Hell had released as a way to slow down the heroes, but the heroes were able to actually defeat the monsters. But that is the moment you have Batman tell the rest of the heroes they need a new plan. And the reason why is because Hell knows all of their plans. And that is why all of their plans have failed so far. Because Hell was able to figure out their plans so easily. And so you have Batman say, we need a new plan right now. One that Hell could never figure out. So let's slow down and actually think of a plan. And so you have the heroes stop and think, what can they do to hopefully stop Hell? But getting back over to Supergirl and Hell, well, that is the moment you actually have Supergirl talking to Hell about something. Because remember, Hell told Supergirl and Superman that he was sent out into space by Jor-El, and it was a big deal on Krypton. But you have Supergirl say, wait a second, I was raised on Krypton. I was almost 18 years old. And with that being said, I would have heard about you being sent out into space. But the problem was, I never heard about you, and I definitely should had if it was so public to the whole world. And so you have Supergirl begin to doubt Hell, but you didn't have Hell tell Supergirl, don't worry, remember, when you were sent here, you lost a lot of your memories, which was true, but at this point, Supergirl had regained most of her memories. And so again, she should remember Hell if he was sent out by Jor-El and if it was a big deal on Krypton. Now you do have Superman being able to get inside the room where he is actually able to fight against Hell. Now you do have Supergirl want to help out Hell because she wants to believe that Hell is doing the right thing, which is going back in time to save Krypton. But that is the moment she is actually stopped by Superboy. And so now you have Superman and Superboy about to fight against Hell and Supergirl. Actually, there is no fight because the next page we actually see the heroes have once again been teleported outside the Fortress of Solitude. On top of that, Hell had moved the Fortress of Solitude farther away from the heroes to just give him enough time to activate the Star Chamber, which of course he does activate, which means it begins the process of absorbing all of the energy from this solar system into it to give Hell the ability to time travel, which means that sooner or later this entire solar system is going to die thanks to Hell because he just wants to go back in time to save his world. But there is one more thing on its way to Earth. Because let's not forget, out in space earlier, a random spaceship of creatures were able to find a cosmic sentient being on its way to Earth. And so, of course, we do learn the name of this creature, and the name is the Oracle. And the only reason why he's going to Earth right now is because the Herald on Earth called him there. Now, of course, we have no idea what is the goal of this cosmic being yet. The Oracle is just going to Earth to witness something, possibly the end of the Earth. But when we jump into the next chapter, we actually see that with Hell activating his Star Chamber, of course, it causes a lot of problems around the world. Earthquakes, volcanoes, a lot of things are happening across the world at the moment. And so right now you have Cyborg and also Batman leave the battle because they know that there is no way they can actually fight against Hell and Supergirl, which means that leaves Superman, Wonder Woman, and Superboy to fight against Supergirl and Hell. Batman, Flash, and Cyborg are going to deal with all the issues going on around the world at the moment. Now, getting back over to Supergirl and Hell, you do have Hell actually excited about his machine working because sooner or later he will have the ability to actually time travel back in time to hopefully save Krypton. But that is the moment you have Supergirl say, hey, the readings are saying that there is intense heat hitting the Earth right now. A high level of radiation is also hitting the Earth right now, which means that you are hurting the people on the planet. And you have Hell reassure Supergirl that he knows what he is doing, that his Star Chamber will not actually hurt the Earth. But either way though, you do have Hell leave Supergirl because there is one last thing he wants to do before he time travels back in time. And of course, the one thing Hell wants to do is get rid of Superboy. Because remember, Superboy is a clone, a possible clone of Superman or Supergirl. But either way though, with him being a clone, back on Krypton, there were a bunch of clones. but those clones went crazy and killed a lot of people on Krypton, and Hell remembers that moment, and so he says, I want to make sure that this clone right here is dead before this clone could possibly turn evil and kill innocent people across the world. Now of course you do have Superman being able to intervene to stop Hell from actually attacking Superboy. Now Wonder Woman wants to help out Superman because two reasons. One, he is her ally, but two, because they're in love with one another. But you have Superman tell Wonder Woman, no, go after Superboy, make sure he is okay after being attacked by Hell, because now the battle armor that was keeping Superboy alive is now gone. You need to go check up on him right now. Now, we actually do find out that Superboy is okay and well, but only because right now he is using his telekinesis to keep his DNA together just long enough so that he'll have the ability to get rid of the Star Chamber. But that is the moment where he is confronted by the Herald. Now, we saw the Herald earlier parts in this video, and the Herald was the one that had called that cosmic being the Oracle to Earth. But either way, you do have the Herald say that he goes around the universe to find planets that has no hope. Now you do have Superboy say, no, this world does have hope. He has plenty of hope, and that hope is all coming from Superman himself. But either way, you do have the Herald actually tell Superboy that one day, if Superboy survives this battle, he could possibly change multiple worlds across the universe. But then we see the Herald actually go find the cosmic being, the Oracle, the one he called here to this earth. But that is the moment we come to find out the Herald says that everything is coming true, the possible end of the earth or this system, because the Oracle, or sorry, the Herald has saw Hell arrive on earth, and to the Herald, Hell could mean the end of all things in this solar system. And so right now you have the Oracle wondering what he should do, but at the same time you have the Oracle actually tell the Herald mentally that there are 5 things that are intriguing to him on the planet Earth. But getting back down over to Superboy, we see him on his way trying to stop the Star Chamber. But that is the moment where he is actually confronted by Supergirl. Now remember, Supergirl hated Superboy just like Hell does. And the reason why, because back on Krypton, there were a bunch of clones that were made by Kryptonians as a way to help Krypton evolve. But of course, those clones went crazy and killed a bunch of people on Krypton. But either way though, you do have Supergirl begin to fight against Superboy because she still believes in what Hell is doing is right, that what he is doing could possibly bring back their home world. But that is the moment you have Superboy actually not fight back against Supergirl. And the reason why? Because he wants to point out that he is not like those clones that she and Hell remember, because he is different. Those clones back on Krypton, they were bloodthirsty. Superboy is not bloodthirsty. He's different, and he's trying to stay like he is because he wants to protect the earth. And so he is not throwing a single punch. On top of that, he's trying to talk to Supergirl to tell her that she is stupid to believe what Hell is doing is right, because Hell is actually going to end all things in this solar system. But Supergirl in the New 52, she was so dismissive, she never listened to anybody except herself. And so right now, she keeps punching and punching Superboy, and he is not fighting back at all because he wants to prove a point to her that he's a different kind of clone. Now, Superboy is lucky that Wonder Woman was nearby, because she does pop in and pop Supergirl flying, which means right now we're going to have Supergirl fight against Wonder Woman. But while the two of them are fighting, you're going to have Superboy try to actually get rid of the Star Chamber some way possible. And so he flies away to complete the one goal he wants to complete before he possibly dies. Now, I do want to point out, when it comes to Supergirl fighting against Wonder Woman, Supergirl is on the same level as Superman, which means that she's almost as powerful as Superman. or really she could be more powerful than Superman. But either way, you do have Supergirl being able to go toe to toe with Wonder Woman. They go back and forth for a good period of time, but then you have Supergirl begin the process of actually beating down on Wonder Woman. And this is huge because in DC Comics, your best fighters or your best heroes are the top three: Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, the trilogy. And so to see her right now get her butt kicked by Supergirl is really crazy because Wonder Woman can actually go toe to toe with Superman for one special reason. And I'm going to explain that reason here in a moment. But getting back over to Superman, who's fighting against Hell, this is one of those big moments because you actually have Hell beating down on Superman. But when Hell begins to talk bad about Superman's parents on Earth, that makes Superman very angry. And you have Superman say, "Never talk about my family on Earth or my family on Krypton." And so he is able to get a few punches in Hell. But here comes the problem though. Hell is still more powerful than Superman, to the point he actually sends Superman flying out into space with one single punch. But getting back over to the battle between Supergirl and Wonder Woman, we saw earlier that Supergirl was actually winning the battle against Wonder Woman. But now we're seeing Wonder Woman being able to beat down on Supergirl. And the reason why, because earlier when it came to Wonder Woman, she was studying Supergirl, learning her moves. Because remember, when it comes to Wonder Woman, where she is from, Themyscira, they train their warriors to the best they are. And so right now, when it comes to Wonder Woman, she is a trained warrior. She learned all of the moves of Supergirl and used them against her as a way to defeat her. And then you have her tie up Supergirl in the lasso of truth, because this is Wonder Woman hoping that Supergirl can see the truth behind the plans of Hell. And so once you have Supergirl realize what Hell is doing, which is sacrificing an entire solar system for him to time travel back in time to just hopefully save Krypton, is a huge problem. A lot of innocent people are going to die for this plan that may not work. But then you have Supergirl use a solar flare. Of course, a solar flare is when Supergirl releases a high amount of solar energy. But once she does that, she is almost completely drained from solar energy and she is very tired and weak. And so you actually have Wonder Woman being able to grab Supergirl one more time, take her to the ground and knock her out, which means, of course, Wonder Woman won the battle. But to close on this chapter, we actually see Supergirl go confront Hell after being woken up by Wonder Woman. Because you have Wonder Woman tell Supergirl, look, this is what he's doing. He's sacrificing an entire planet here, an entire solar system just to save yours, and it could most likely not work. And here's the problem though. Earlier, Hell lied to Supergirl because Hell told Supergirl that he knew what he was doing. He knew that apparently he was not going to hurt the Earth at all, that all he's going to do is time travel and that is it. But in reality, Hell knew what he was doing. He knew he had to sacrifice an entire solar system just to bring back Krypton. And Supergirl is kind of like, I'm not down for murder. You are going to kill billions of people on this planet to bring ours back. And it could not possibly work. And she cannot stand that. But then you have Hell tell Supergirl she needs to choose Earth or Krypton. It's him basically making the woman that he has supposedly fell in love with choose to save her home world or save her new world that she had crashed on. But getting into the final chapter of this book, we actually pick up with Superman himself as we see him crash landing into something. Because remember, in the last chapter, Hell punched Superman all the way up into space. And of course, it made Superman crash into something, and he crashed into the Oracle. Now remember, the Oracle is this sentient being, this cosmic being on its way to Earth. And the reason why, because when it comes to the Oracle, apparently he must bear witness when a planet is about to have a huge time event. And so that is why he is here, because with Hell about to go back in time to hopefully save Krypton, but at the same time kind of destroying the entire solar system that Earth is a part of, the Oracle had appeared to bear witness of it. But then you have the Oracle disappear, and you have Superman realize he needs to get back down to Earth to fight against Hell. Now we do jump back down to Earth with Superboy, Supergirl, and Wonder Woman. And the reason why is because right now they're dealing with Hell by themselves. Now at the end of our last chapter, Hell gave Supergirl a choice to join him or fight against him. And you have Supergirl basically say that she is going to fight against him. And the reason why is because now she knows the truth. If she helps out Hell, then most likely the entire solar system will vanish. It will be destroyed thanks to Hell time traveling back in time. And so you have Supergirl saying she is going to fight against him. Now Superboy is trying to bring down the Star Chamber, thinking that if he is able to get rid of it, then most likely it could stop Hell from going back in time. Now you do have Superboy being able to get rid of the Star Chamber, but that is the moment you have Hell say, "Do not worry, you basically still help me out because my spaceship is still ready. The Star Chamber was only charging up my spaceship with everything I need to go back in time to complete my mission." But then you have Superman appear. He came back from space and he crash land right on top of Hell. And this is a Superman who is so angry, so upset with Hell with the idea of actually killing off an entire planet that he is no longer holding back. He is punching Hell with everything he has. And so with that happening, actually, his attacks can be felt all over the world. Matter of fact, they can be felt even at the watchtower that's in space. And so that is how powerful Superman is punching Hell right at the moment. But that is when you have Superman realize something. Superman realized that Hell planned all of this because Hell knew that Superboy was the only one who was strong enough to actually detach the Star Chamber from the spaceship, because the Star Chamber was only fueling the spaceship that Hell is going to use to time travel. And so with Superboy being able to get rid of the Star Chamber, now the spaceship is ready to go. And so Hell can actually time travel back in time. And so he does punch Superman right in the face, and he's about to get into the machine to actually complete his goal. But right before he is able to go, that is the moment you have Supergirl do a small trick on Hell. Because remember, Supergirl used to love Hell, and Hell actually did have feelings for Supergirl even though he was using her. And so you have Supergirl actually beg Hell if she can go with him back in time to save Krypton, to make Hell think that once again Supergirl is on his side. But that is the moment when Supergirl gets close to Hell, she stabs him right in the chest with kryptonite. And of course, that is the main weakness of all Kryptonians across the world, kryptonite. And so Hell is now bleeding thanks to being stabbed in the chest but with kryptonite by Supergirl. Now here comes the problem though. Hell does fall through some kind of time portal, but of course the solar system is saved. But Supergirl is now very sick because thanks to her holding on to that kryptonite for so long, she may have kryptonite poisoning. And so you have Superman actually take her back to his fortress as a way to save her life. But to wrap up this crazy story, and yes, it was a crazy one, we actually jump back 12 years before Krypton blew up. And we actually pick up with the younger Jor-El. Now I would say this Jor-El is probably in high school or college, who knows. But he is 12 years younger than we have usually seen him in the past in the New 52. But either way though, we do see Jor-El find something, and what he finds is Hell. Hell went through that time portal and actually landed on Krypton 12 years before it actually exploded. And that right there is very huge. And this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. To begin today's storyline, we actually pick up with Superman 23.3. Now, that decimal number may sound very weird, and the reason why, because in the middle days of the New 52 for DC Comics, what they did was they released a lot of books that had a decimal number. And the reason why, because each book was a way to kind of explain an origin story for a certain villain of a character in DC Comics. And so when it came to 23.3, it was a way for DC to kind of explain the origin of Hell, because Hell only appeared in the Hell on Earth storyline, and that was it. And so they used this book for two reasons. One, to give us the origin of Hell, but two, to also get us ready for the sequel to Hell on Earth, which is Krypton Returns, the storyline we are covering today. Now, with that being said, we actually pick up with Hell right now on Krypton in a coma. Now, the reason why he's in Krypton in a coma is because what happened at the end of the Hell on Earth storyline. At the very end of the Hell on Earth storyline, Supergirl had basically stabbed Hell in the chest with a bunch of kryptonite, but Hell was able to achieve the goal he wanted to do, to go back in time to actually save Krypton from blowing up, because Hell really believes that he is the adoptive brother of Superman, meaning that he was the intern to Jor-El. Now, we're going to find out in this story right here that technically he is not even the adoptive brother of Superman. He just thinks he is. But either way, like I said, at the end of that storyline, he was able to go back in time, but of course he was badly injured and he fell in a coma. Now Jor-El found him in the past, and Jor-El began to kind of study him to learn more about him. Now this right here is going to begin the process of us actually learning about Hell, how Hell is technically not even Kryptonian at all. And that right there is very huge to say. But Jor-El is called away to talk to the Science Council about other things, including Hell, because right now the council really feels like this study on Hell is not even important at all. Now, when Jor-El goes to meet up with the Science Council, he tells them what he found. He tells them that he found out that Hell is from the future, which is very huge to say. But on top of that, he does tell the Science Council the material that he had found inside Hell, of course, which was the kryptonite that Hell was stabbed with, is also from the future. Now, the Science Council is kind of like, wait, how do you know he is from the future? And that is the moment you have Jor-El say, listen, the kryptonite are the pieces of Krypton. It must have came from the future because there is so much radioactive inside of it that there is no way it did not come from the future. This can only happen to pieces of Krypton if our core had exploded, meaning that this could mean down the road Krypton is going to blow up, and when it does, pieces of Krypton is going to lead into actually becoming radioactive. Now again, you have the Science Council not believing what Jor-El is telling them. They're all kind of like, there's no way. There is no way that Krypton is going to blow up, because this is the Science Council. They think they know everything, but also they believe in their culture so much that they are a strong culture that can never die. When one of them comes to them and say, our planet is doomed to explode, they cannot believe that at all. Now, while this meeting is going on, Hell is there in astral form. Yes, he's in a coma, but his mind gives him the ability to travel around the area to follow Jor-El in an astral form. And right now you have Hell kind of watching this meeting, and he's kind of like, look at them. They look down at Jor-El. They look down at my mentor. They look down on my father. They do not understand that he is technically correct. The planet is going to explode. But remember, when it comes to Hell, Hell's goal was to go back in time to save Krypton. And so right now, he actually has the chance to save Krypton. So he's kind of like, once my body regains the energy it needs to wake me up, I'm going to begin the process of actually saving Krypton. Now, this is the moment we actually learn about the origin of Hell. And the reason why I say that is because, remember, Hell is following Jor-El around in his astral form. But Jor-El is having a meeting with Zod. And while Zod and Jor-El having their meeting, well, that is the moment you have Hell learn that he was never around at all. Because to Hell, he's kind of like, in my memory bank, I was here around this time learning from Jor-El. Jor-El was my mentor. I was his intern. But of course, Hell is not around. Especially when you have Jor-El tell Zod about the different creatures and the different beings that he is studying that came from the past on Krypton. And for Hell, he's kind of like, wait a second. I was around with Jor-El studying those things. And when Jor-El mentions about traveling to a solar system, you have Hell say, wait a second, but I went to that solar system. And Zod is saying it is illegal to space travel. What in the world is going on? But when you have Jor-El reveal a spaceship that he had made, you have Hell kind of like, that's my spaceship. But I remember building that spaceship with Jor-El, and I traveled in that spaceship as a way to save Krypton. But in this timeline, Jor-El already made it. And that is the moment you have Hell learn that technically he's not even Kryptonian. Because inside that spaceship, Jor-El had different samples of creatures and beings from the past. And when the spaceship traveled through space and time, of course, that sample came alive. And of course, it made Hell. And Hell, on accident, got false memories, meaning that Hell is just a clone of some random Kryptonian from the past and right now living in the past still, but he's a clone from something from the farther past on Krypton. He's a clone. He's not technically a real Kryptonian. And that is huge for Hell, because everything he remembers, everything he thought he did, everything he felt was all a big lie. Now, with Hell realizing that he is basically a clone, he's not really a Kryptonian, he wakes up angry. He wakes up out of his coma. He begins to kill people all over the Science Council. Matter of fact, Zod gets murdered by Hell. And you're kind of like, wait a second. With him doing all these different things, of course that means he is changing the timeline. And that is very huge. But here comes the biggest moment of all. The biggest moment of them all. Man, I had a hard time saying that. My bad. But here comes the biggest moment of them all. Is when he confronts Jor-El. Because he is angry at Jor-El. Because he believes that Jor-El did it on purpose. That Jor-El created him on purpose and left them out there in space for 30 years. But in reality, Jor-El did it on accident. He sent that spaceship out there on accident. The samples on that spaceship were not supposed to come alive, and they did. And so you have Hell saying, you made me. You left me. And you think because I wear this symbol on my chest, your symbol, that you think that I think I am the hope to save Krypton from blowing up. But I don't want to save Krypton anymore. I hate you just as much as I hate this planet, because now I realize I'm just a clone. And so he kills Jor-El right then and there. You're like, wait a second. You can't kill off Jor-El, because if you do, that means Clark Kent, aka Superman, cannot come alive. But of course, that is not the biggest moment. The biggest moment, well, really that was the biggest moment. But right after that moment, you have Hell begin the process to making sure that he comes alive. Because remember, for Hell to come alive, the samples have to travel through space and time and then come alive to make Hell. If that does not happen, then Hell cannot be alive. And so he has to make sure that this spaceship that Jor-El made, that Hell thought him and Jor-El made together, travels through space and time, and hoping that he'll come alive, because now Hell's goal is not to save Krypton, but to rule Krypton. And this begins the return of Krypton. Now, we do pick up with Action Comics Annual number 2. Now, technically, this is part 1 of Krypton Returns, but I like to use Superman 23.3 as a prelude to this storyline. Now, with that being said though, we do pick up where our last video for Superman left off at. Now, at the end of that last video, Superman was pulled away by the Oracle at the end of Psy-War. Now, with them being in space, he does walk through different portals, and that is the moment he is confronted by Supergirl. Now, when it comes to Supergirl and Supergirl and Superman, there is a love-hate relationship between the two characters, because for Supergirl, she feels like Superman should be mourning more for the death of Krypton. But for Superman, he's kind of like, I never grew up on Krypton. I was born there, but I was sent away as soon as I was born. And so with that, he's kind of like, you grew up there, so I understand why you're mourning for the death of Krypton, but that can't be me. Now, that is all past stuff. Right now, these two characters are really catching up with one another. But that is the moment you have Superboy appear. Now, Superboy is a clone, but he's not a clone of Superman. And the reason why I say that, because we learned, well, actually not we, I learned this, but I'm going to cover that storyline very soon, that Superboy is actually a clone of another Superboy from a different timeline. Yes, you heard that right. Now, I am not going to dive more into that until we cover that storyline, but that is how he is here, because after that storyline, he came here. Now, Supergirl hates Superboy because she remembers what happened on Krypton. There was a moment that Kryptonians had made clones, but of course the clones turned evil and they had to die. And so when she sees Superboy, she's kind of like, you're a clone that could possibly turn evil. Now, with that being said, all three realize there must be some kind of reason why they are here. And that is the moment they come to find out that they were all called here by the Oracle. Now, the Oracle is this cosmic being that basically watches over the Omniverse. Now, with that being said, if he does appear in front of you, that means all reality is doomed to die. And so with them being here right now in front of Superman, Supergirl, and Superboy, that means all reality is about to die. But the question is, what is causing that problem? And that is the moment he points behind them and shows them that Krypton is back. And it's kind of like, wait a second, that is not possible at all. Now for Superboy, he's kind of like, cool, Krypton is back. I'm from Earth. I don't give a you know what about this planet. But for Supergirl, she's kind of like, this is my home. I grew up on this planet, and to find out it blew up, but now it's back, this is great. But for Superman, with him being a very veteran hero, he's kind of like, listen, if Krypton is back, that means something is wrong. And looking at Krypton, it looks worse than what I seen in those books I read about Krypton. And for Supergirl, she realized that Krypton does look different. But of course, she's too excited. She has to go down there and see. But Superman does tell her, wait a second, before you fly down there, we should be careful with what we do here, because we have no idea how in the world it's even possible to be here. But that is the moment you have the Oracle actually teleport Superman, Supergirl, and Superboy to one of the moons of Krypton. Now, you do have the Oracle take over the body of Superboy, which is very huge to say, so that he can talk to Superman and Supergirl to tell them why in the world they were all brought here to Krypton. And he says, listen, do you guys remember Hell? And they say, yes, we do. But he was badly injured and sent back in time. And you have the Oracle say, and that is why Krypton is back. Because when he went back in time, badly injured, he did recover. And he began the process of actually trying to save Krypton. But with them having the ability now to time travel, every single time he failed at his mission to save Krypton, he kept going back and back in time, trying to change things, doing things differently. And he has caused so many different realities with him going back in time over and over and over again. All reality is about to die. The omniverse is about to die. And that is huge to say. And so you have Superman and Supergirl kind of like, oh, we basically are at fault for this. We sent him back in time. Yes, we thought he was injured and we were hoping he would possibly die, but of course, now he's alive and all reality is doomed. Now that is the moment you have Supergirl do something completely crazy here. And honestly, it's to save Superboy's life. You have Supergirl smack Superboy right in the face. And the reason why, because the longer Oracle had control over Superboy's body, the longer that means that his body could burn out and possibly die. And so Supergirl really just saves Superboy's life, even though she hates him. But that is the moment they are confronted by Faora. And I really hope I pronounce her name correctly, because you guys get mad when I mispronounce these names, but please forgive me. But either way, you have her appear. Now she's a very important character, because usually if you see her, Zod is nearby, and Zod is usually a bad guy. But of course, this time she's actually helping the Oracle out. And you have Faora show Superman, Supergirl, and Superboy what is happening right now on the moon, but also happening on Krypton. With Hell now ruling Krypton, it's basically slavery all over. Like, it's slavery all over. And again, it seems like this point right here, he was able to save Krypton. Maybe, just maybe. For now, we have no idea. Because when it comes to Krypton, it is doomed to die. It's part of the timeline. Krypton must die, no matter what. And so with that, it's kind of like, yeah, it should be gone. But with Hell being the leader of Krypton, he saved Krypton. But now there's slavery going around all over this planet. And so you have Faora say, I am helping the Oracle so that you guys can save the day. Now, you do have Superboy being the hot-headed one, and he feels like with the heroes having all these powers, they should be able to actually save these people. And so he tries to free the slaves to only get blasted out of the sky. But with him doing that, the people who are running this area of the slaves know that Faora is back and she brought some friends. I want to say fans. But anyways, she brought some friends, which means that they should be captured. Now let's not forget, Superman, Supergirl, well, really just Superman and Supergirl, they get their powers from the yellow sun. Now, their suits are able to absorb a certain amount of solar energy, but the longer they're away from the yellow sun, their powers begin to go away from them. So sooner or later, they are going to be powerless. And so if they want to stop hell, they need to do something now. Now, you do have Aurora tell them they need to travel to 3 different points in time. Supergirl, she must go to the point in time where the clones on Krypton began to attack the capital of Krypton, and she must handle that situation. Superboy must go to a different timeline to make sure that Supergirl actually leaves Krypton and goes to Earth. And Superman must stop hell, but a timeline where he was actually able to achieve his goal. Those 3 timelines, and our heroes go through the 3 portals right before Hell is able to get there, and he kills for Aura, but he knows that Superman, Supergirl, and Superboy are out there in different timelines about to cause the end of his rule over Krypton. Now, each timeline is very difficult for different characters. Like, for example, for Supergirl to go to the point where Krypton was about to be attacked by the clones that they have made is hard for her. It explains why she hates Superboy so much, because he is a clone, and she feels like sooner or later one day he will turn evil and try to kill people across the earth. And so that's her goal, to somehow resolve the clone problem on Krypton. And for Superboy to go to a timeline to make sure that Supergirl leaves Krypton is hard for him, because Superman had kind of accepted Superboy for who he is. But for Supergirl, she's like, no, forget you. I don't like you. You're a clone. And on my planet, clones were evil. And so now he must save the person who hates him in the present day. It's just crazy for him, but he has to do it. Now, for Superman, this is going to be even harder for him. And the reason why I say that is because he must go to the exact moment Hell was able to achieve his goal, to save Krypton or to rule over Krypton. But when he goes to that timeline, well, he is confronted by his mother. And that is huge, because Superman never had the chance to talk to his mother. And when the Fortress of Solitude was made, usually in comics, he talks to a computer version of his dad, not his mom. And so this is huge. On top of that, it's his mom in real life. But things are about to get worse for our heroes. And the reason why I say that's because you have Hell learn, okay, so the Oracle is behind all of this. He's trying to make sure I fail. And he's the one who has recruited Superman, Supergirl, and Superboy. So I must stop him, and I must stop them. I must use my newfound powers to travel to the different timelines that these 3 characters are in and hopefully stop them before they are able to achieve their goal. Now, when we jump into the 3rd chapter of this book, we actually do pick up with Superboy trying to make sure that Supergirl leaves Krypton, because we come to find out in this book, and maybe I forgot from earlier books, Supergirl leaves 1 week before Krypton blows up. Because her father was so scared that Krypton was going to blow up, he made sure to send Supergirl 1 week before the day was supposed to come. On top of that, this is the moment you had Jor-El, the father of Supergirl, begin the process of actually making sure Argo City lives, by Argo City flying off into space using some kind of force shield to protect it from the environment of space. But either way, here comes the big problem. even though Superboy is supposed to say Supergirl, well, of course, he is attacked by some kind of creature. This creature is known as the Eradicator. Now, that name should sound very familiar because when it comes to the Eradicator, he usually appears as one of the many versions of Superman back in the death of Superman in the reign of Superman back in the 1990s. But because this is the new 52, he has a new origin. Anytime a planet is about to die or is doomed to die and people try to prevent its death, well, the Eradicator of that planet comes out of nowhere to make sure the planet dies. And so that is what the Eradicator is. He's making sure that this planet dies, but everyone on this planet dies. And so with Supergirl kind of supposed to leave, the Eradicator is like, no. Krypton is a doomed planet and everyone on it must die. That includes her, so I'm going to kill her. And you have Superboy kind of like, my mission is to save her, so I have to save her from him. Now, getting over to Supergirl, this is hard for her, like I said earlier, because the part of time she is in is when the clones began the process of attacking Krypton. The clones had turned evil, and if you're wondering what I'm talking about, we learned this in Superboy number 0, that basically Kryptonians have made clones as a way to help them do different tasks. At first, clones were used as a way to be experiments for different kinds of drugs or space travel. But when those came too hard for the clones were made to be used as kind of like maids and butlers for different Kryptonians across Krypton. But of course, that changed when clones began to turn evil, and so the clones began to uprise against their creators, and Supergirl right now is fighting against a set of clones, but the only thing she can remember is how much she hates the clones, because the clones had caused so many problems for them over the years, and so right now this is a very difficult thing for her. Now, getting back over to Superman, we see him right now being confronted by his mother, which is very huge to say because he never saw his mother. Now, here comes the thing he gets to learn about his mother. His mother is a very, very well fighter. A very good fighter. She knows how to fight. She was well trained. And so with that being said, she begins to whoop this man's butt. I can't curse on YouTube. Well, I could, but I don't want to. But she begins to whoop Superman's butt like no other. And he's kind of like, I got my powers. Yes, they're fading away with me being near a red sun, but oh my God, mom is kicking my butt. Now, the only reason why she stops is because Superman armor changes. Now, I forgot to mention that earlier. When he arrived in this timeline, his usual red and blue outfit changed into an all white. And the symbol that means the House of El was gone. But when he appears in front of his mom and she began to kick his butt, his suit changed again to all black and the House of El symbol appeared again. And the question is now, what in the world is going on with his suit? He has no idea, nor do we. But for Laura, she's kind of like, if you are holding that symbol, that means you're family and something is wrong with you. Let me go find my husband, Jor-El, to talk to you. And you have Superman like, I'm about to meet my father? Now, the 3rd chapter and the 4th and the 5th chapter, we are gonna go through these things very quickly because a lot of these pages in these books were just splash pages, literally splash page after splash page. And so it made it a very easy read through when I sat down and read this book. But either way though, you do jump back over to Superboy fighting the Eradicator. Now this fight again lasts for like 2 splash pages, so technically 4 pages, but either way, Superboy realized that his powers are not really fading as fast as Superman and Supergirl. And the reason why, because he is a clone. He didn't come from Krypton. Yes, he does have Kryptonian DNA inside of him, but he also has human DNA inside of him. And his DNA is very unique and different from Superman and Supergirl because he's from an alternate timeline basically, or his DNA is, but either way, he's able to use telekinesis from the planet to attack the Eradicator. And so when he thinks he has killed the Eradicator, he's kind of like, okay, so now back to my original mission, which is to make sure Supergirl gets off this planet in Argo City before it dies. Now, to make things worse for our heroes, let's not forget about Hell. Yes, our heroes are dealing with different things in their own timelines that they have traveled to, but Hell is the main bad guy of this timeline. And Hell said he was going to kill Superman, Supergirl, and Superboy. But the person he attacks first is Supergirl. He attacks her right after she just fought against all those clones in the middle of some random jungle, which means she used a lot of her powers that she had left from the yellow sun, so she's almost drained out. And so now she's confronted by Hell, and Hell is only here because he used to love her. Let's not forget, on the Hell on Earth event, Supergirl and Hell fell in love with one another, but he felt betrayed when she stabbed him in the chest with the kryptonite, and so he is here to get revenge against the woman he used to love. Now, when we jump into the 4th chapter of the book, we actually pick up with the Oracle. Now, the Oracle is the one, let's not forget, who brought our heroes all together as a way to stop Hell, because he knows if Hell is not stopped sooner or later, that means that all reality is gonna go away. And so right now, he's kind of hoping our heroes can complete their goal. But the reason why I'm covering him right now again, because we come to find out he has a new herald, and his new herald tell us that right now the heroes are lucky that everything that is being destroyed in different realities, no life has died yet. So planets are blowing up, but they had no life on those planets. But the biggest point of this section is the herald tell us that the Oracle should have told Superman, Supergirl, and Superboy that one of them is not gonna come back alive after all of this. Now, getting back over to Supergirl, who's right now being confronted by Hell, somebody she used to love, somebody she had to stab in the chest, the first man she ever loved. It's kind of like awkward moment because he's here to kill her, not because he knows that sooner or later she could stop everything he's trying to achieve, but in reality to get revenge, because he was hoping that Supergirl would have been the one to work with him to actually achieve their goal to bring Krypton back to life. And so right now he's here to kill her because at the end of the Hell on Earth event, she killed him, or not really killed him, but she stabbed him. And that right there is very huge to say. And so right now he's kind of like, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you for what you did to me. But Supergirl remembers what Superman's mother taught her, how to fight, because Superman's Kryptonian mother was a great fighter, and she taught Supergirl some moves, and she used that moves on Hell to get away from him. But getting back over to Superman, let's not forget that Superman was supposed to meet Jor-El, his biological father, because after he met his mother and he showed her the House of El symbol, she's kind of like, okay, if you're here and your suit is changing constantly and you're acting weird, something must be wrong with you. Let me go get my husband, Jor-El. But of course, as soon as Jor-El arrives, he disappears. Superman disappears to make sure this does not affect the timeline, but someone else comes out of nowhere and confronts Superman, and Superman can't believe who it is. Now, getting back over to Superboy, let's not forget what his mission was. His mission was to make sure that Supergirl leaves Krypton like her father did to her in the original timeline. The problem is he must have a round 2 with the Eradicator, and the Eradicator once again is something that was made to make sure a Doom planet dies. No matter what happens in a timeline, that planet must die, and everyone on that planet must die with the planet. And so right now he's here to make sure that Supergirl dies with this planet. Now, you do have Superboy fight against the Eradicator, and their fight does go on for a few pages, but then you have Superboy basically push the Eradicator through one of the many portals of the Oracle, and it sends the Eradicator to Smallville, Kansas. That is a huge problem, because when Superman and Supergirl get back to Earth, they might have to fight against the Eradicator now, because the Eradicator was made to kill everyone on Krypton with the Doom planet. And when he finds out that Superman and Supergirl lived in the present day on Earth, oh no, he is going to try to kill them. But for now, Superboy has saved past Supergirl and being able to send her out into space like she's supposed to do in every single timeline. Now, this begins the downfall for Hell, and the reason why I say that is because you actually have Hell try to travel to 2 timelines at once. Because let's not forget what I said earlier. Hell told us he was going to kill Superboy, Supergirl, and Superman, no matter what timeline they're in, because he has the ability to travel throughout all time. And so with that being said, right now at this moment, it is Hell telling us he will fight against Supergirl and Superboy at the same time in 2 different timelines. And that right there is gonna cause a lot of problems for him. But of course, something else happens for Supergirl. Because with Hell fighting against Supergirl at the moment in time where the clones are trying to attack their creators, the clones begin to help Supergirl, because when Supergirl arrived, she had to fight against the clones, and she was able to beat the clones. And when she was able to beat the clones, they began to look at her as their leader. And so now the clones are going to help Supergirl fight against Hell in the timeline that she is in. And that right there is going to help our heroes defeat Hell even more. And so when we get into the final chapter of the book, we actually do pick up with Superboy realizing what is going on with Hell. Because with Hell trying to fight against both Supergirl and Superboy in 2 different timelines is too much for him to handle. Yes, he can travel throughout space and time, but the problem is though, he can't be at 2 places at the same time and trying to do a whole lot of work in both timelines at the same time. It's using too much energy, and so right now he is not as strong as he was as we saw him in the Hell on Earth event when he was whooping both Supergirl, Superman, and Superboy's butt. And so now it seems like the heroes might be able to actually win this battle and save the day. Now, getting back over to Superman, you do have Superman get confronted by the one person he did not expect to see, well really he did not want to see, and that is Jor-El, but not the Jor-El that his mother he met earlier was going to get. This is a different version of Jor-El from a timeline that Hell has created. In that timeline, Jor-El has sent Superman to Earth like he always does in every timeline. But in his timeline, Hell was able to actually save Krypton. And with that happening, everyone looked at Jor-El as a madman, saying like, you sent your son away because you told us some huge doomsday was coming, but in reality it did not come, and our leader was the one to save us. Hell saved Krypton. Now, with Hell saving Krypton, that led into a big moment, because you had Jor-El realize that Hell is causing the end of all time. And so you have Jor-El tell Superman he came to this timeline like Superman did to make sure hell fails. Because if hell fails here, then all time and all realities can be saved. Now, getting back over to Superboy, this is the moment we come to find out what Oracle's new herald meant earlier, that one of the heroes is going to die. And the reason why I say that, because you have Superboy realize to get Supergirl off this planet, he must basically carry her rocket ship and throw it out into space so that it has enough energy or force or whatever to travel throughout space like it's supposed to get that takeoff going. But he knows if he does that, he's going to die. So Superboy is the one that is supposedly to die. Now, getting back over to Supergirl, who's fighting against Hell in her timeline, she's able to defeat Hell with the moves she learned from her cousin, Superman's mother. At the same time, with Hell being weak, she was able to beat him. But I like this moment for her, and the reason why, because she finally is able to move on. Because we watch her at the end of the Hell on Earth event, and the couple of storylines we have covered for Supergirl, she was so hooked on Hell. She still loved him, but she realized how he played her, how he used her, and how she felt being used. And so this is her killing Hell in this timeline, but also moving on to hopefully find someone else to love. Now, getting back over to Superman and Jor-El, you do have Superman and Jor-El travel to the core of Krypton, because we all know when it comes to Krypton, originally before DC changed so many things thanks to Brian Michael Bendis, but anyways, with Krypton, the core was the reason why Krypton blew up. And so they're down here traveling to the core, but not to blow up the core, but to stop one person. And that person is Hell. Because again, to stop Hell for Superman, he must defeat Hell at the exact moment Hell was able to achieve his ultimate goal, which means that Hell found a way to stop the core from blowing up Krypton. And when he did that, it led to Hell basically ruining all time across the Omniverse. And so right now, you actually have Superman and Jor-El fight against Hell. Now here comes the problem though. You have Jor-El telling Superman the only way to actually defeat Hell is to kill him. Now for Superman, he does not kill. In this version of Jor-El, he's kind of like, listen, I know what's at cost. You must actually kill him here. If not, everything is gone. Do not let your whole morality, had a hard time saying that, take over and you not able to kill this man and save everything across all time and space. You must kill him to save everyone. But that is the moment you have Superman say, no. If I'm able to keep punching him and punching him beyond the exact moment that he is able to save Krypton, then that means Hell can technically not save Krypton, and means that everything in the Omniverse will not die. But getting back over to Superboy, we do see him being able to actually achieve the goal that was set for him by the Oracle, to make sure that Supergirl does get off Krypton like she does in most timelines, which is very huge to say. And so he is able to send her away, to send her off Krypton, but he knows that there's no one to save him. He's trapped in the middle of space with a planet dying behind him. And so technically, this was supposed to be the end of Superboy, or we were left to believe that this would be his end. But either way, this is goodbye for Superboy at the moment. Now, the way this story wraps up is honestly kind of a letdown, because what Superman actually does is he kind of pushed Hell into limbo in a way where he's stuck in a constant loop, meaning that Hell will constantly do the same thing over and over again in his own kind of limbo timeline, but it should not affect other timelines, meaning that Superman was able to defeat Hell without killing him, but kind of left him in a instant loop, which is technically kind of like torture, but forever. But either way, you do have Supergirl appear and tell Superman it's time to go back to their own time, which they do. And the event kind of wrap up where you have the two heroes realizing that Superboy did not make it, but they do honor him as a hero, and the book ends there. That is Krypton Returns. And after that, we kind of lead in for Superman fighting against Doomsday and also Supergirl becoming a Red Lantern. Well, kind of. I think that comes after Superman Doom. But either way, this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. Also, if you have any suggestions on books I should read, well, please let me know in the comments below, because you never know, your suggestion could be a future video down the road. But I do hope you enjoy today's comic book video. Later, guys.